items that are for continuation.
I.E. semicolon.
We have the map at 1979 Polaris, which we're asking that it be taken off calendar.
We were told that we were supposed to handle appeals first.
That's true.
I mean, I believe that's in the ordinance,
It is in the ordinance.
but I also
But
have the
you may
prerequisite.
reorder
I know.
any item on the agenda.
We have no legal counsel today, so Lord knows what'll happen to us.
I think we should.
Mr. Chairman, you're on TV.
Thank you. Well, for the public at large, we have no legal counsel today. All right, so, well, let's come to order, and then you can tell us about it. All right, we're coming to order. Today is the Wednesday, April 16th, regular meeting of the Planning Commission. Could I have roll call, please?
Commissioner Jarrow,
Here.
Commissioner Manukian,
Aye.
Commissioner Torgerson,
Here.
Commissioner Ramirez, Chairperson Kane.
Here. Report regarding posting of agenda, please.
The agenda for this meeting was posted on or before Wednesday, April 9th, on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
All right, would you please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. I have no cards for oral communication. I actually have no cards for anything, by the way, so if anyone here wants to speak on a matter, we have one card now. You're going to want to fill in one of the forms that are off on the side and pass it through the clerk and then to us. And I'm sorry, Laura, you were indicating a request to modify our agenda in some way?
Yes, we have two items that we would like to have continued. Actually, one item we'd like to have taken off calendar, and one item we'd like to have continued. Item number 7A for old business is tentative parcel map GLN 1619 at 1979 Polaris Drive, and we're requesting that item be taken off calendar. An applicant has not yet submitted information as was requested.
All right. Any comments from commissioners? Otherwise, could we have a motion to continue with a date undetermined?
So move.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Jarrow,
Aye.
Commissioner Manukian,
Aye.
Commissioner Torgerson,
Aye.
Chairperson Kane.
Aye, on a vote of 4-0, tentative parcel map number GLN 1619 is continued. It's taken off calendar. Date of continuation uncertain, I guess.
Right, that would be renoticed at the next time it would be heard by you.
And then you wanted to do something similar with 8A?
Correct. 8A is tentative tract 69998 at 230 to 240 South Jackson Street. We are, again, waiting for additional materials from the applicant, and we're requesting that case be continued to June 4th, 2008 without further notice.
Comments from commissioners or a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move that tentative track map 69998 be moved to June 4th for hearing.
Second.
Motion and support. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Jarrow,
Aye.
Commissioner Manukian.
Aye.
Commissioner Torgerson.
Aye.
Chairperson Kane.
Aye, on a vote of 4-0, tentative track number 69998 is continued to June 4th, 2008,
And I just want to clarify that's without further notice.
without further notice. Thank you. All right, and unless there's anything to the contrary, can we go back to 6A?
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
All right, on 6A, we have an appeal. It's a zoning administration decision appeal for 2800 Montrose Avenue, which had been continued from March 5th, 2008. It's an appeal of a design standards and setback variance to permit or legalize the construction of a ground sign in the required front setback, and where a sign is not permitted in the R1650 zone, and the required minimum setback is 20 feet in the R1650 zone. The appellant is David Mercer. Staff is is represented by Rathard Dwan.
Correct.
Thank you. And we have a recommendation to sustain. Now, I also have a statement that I'm supposed to read prior to these appeals. This item is an appeal from the decision of the zoning administrator or zoning hearing officer. The matter is heard as a de novo hearing. Testimony given at the zoning administrator's hearing should be repeated because the commission does not review the tapes of those meetings. Decisions rendered today will be based on the evidence presented at this hearing and the evidence in the file, including appeal documents, staff reports, and letters received. Individuals speaking today should therefore present all the evidence which they may wish this commission to consider. A handout describing the appeals process is available at the front counter. Appeal items are considered as public hearings. The commission will consider testimony from the appellant, applicant, staff, and any member of the public wishing to speak. If you wish to speak, please fill out a card and present it to the recording secretary. Okay, that said, we'll get staff overview. And by the way, I realized we forgot to approve the minutes. We'll back up after this one and take care of that.
Mr. Chair, before I proceed, I just received a request from the appellant a couple minutes ago wanting to, if the commission would entertain a request for continuance of this case.
Well, what happens in the case of a continuance? Are they allowed to keep their sign until we hear it? What's the status of that?
I believe, yes, and we would work with neighborhood services to let them know that the case is still being worked out and that it's being continued so that they know that the enforcement could be.
We can have the applicant speak, or you can tell us, did they indicate a reason for the continuance?
I believe that the appellant will share that with you.
Why don't you step up and let us know what your thoughts are as to the reasons.
Hello there, I'm Tracy Escalona, representing David Mercer. I would just request a continuance based off of some more information that I would like to provide based off of what was in the notes, showing that the clear notification of where the accidents had occurred prior, wanting, which units were affected. I would like to present the invoices and actual pictures of those units showing exactly where they're located so that it can, definitely show that this is where the accidents occur, which is why we are putting up this ground sign / traffic barrier.
All right. Now, when did you know that was going to be an issue? For example, why isn't that material available for you today? This has been a noticed hearing for some time.
It has been, yes, but according to this information I just received, just showing the, what was it, the staffing?
Staff report.
Staff
Yes.
report.
Just indicated that the area that was,
Now, one of their objections focused on that?
yes.
Okay.
And
And
it
that you had
didn't-
not seen that information before?
No, sir, I had not.
Is that accurate, Edith, that your decision letter would not have indicated that? Or whoever was the zoning?
Well, Mr. Chair, members of the board, that was not really an issue that I considered when I made the decision. The accidents, as far as I'm concerned, has nothing to do with the placement of the sign or locating a sign right there.
From your perspective, but obviously the appellant
Right.
feels that it is
Well, and
germane.
as a matter of fact, those information came from them, not actually from us.
Mhm.
They were the one who provided us the list of those accidents happening.
All right.
And that's their main argument is the sign or the wall could prevent those accidents from happening.
Actually, I've jumped in front of my fellow commissioners. Do you have any questions for the appellant? Would this be information you could gather within 2 weeks?
Yes, definitely.
So 2 weeks from, at our next meeting, rather. I guess that would be 2 weeks. Or is it 3?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? I think it's 3.
It's 8.
3 weeks. April has to flip over. What's my fellow commissioners' wishes on this?
Mr. Chair, if I may suggest an option, you could take testimony and see if there are any additional questions or matters of evidence that come up today, and then continue it open if you still feel that it's necessary.
Well, if we do that, we basically have the hearing, and then just continue the hearing, and then the applicant would then present their case. I mean, it's kind of out of order. I mean, I don't favor that option, frankly. We either should have it or we shouldn't. You guys understand what I'm saying? We'd hear it all, and then we'll hear it all again in 2 weeks.
No, I have no objection to continuing it then. I agree.
All right, we're comfortable with continuing it for that stated purpose. I'll also point out that that may or may not have, any resonance with us.
Of course.
But clearly, you're viewing it as a key component. So we're
Definitely.
going to give you 3 weeks, next meeting, date certain. Do we have room on the agenda?
April 30th.
Well, you have another meeting on May 7th,
May
but you
7th.
already have an appeal scheduled for that day.
Mm-hmm.
You may want to put it on May 21st because you do not have an appeal scheduled for that meeting.
I don't have a problem having two. What else is on the agenda?
Well, you have for
May 7th.
May 7th, you have three condominiums, and you have a hearing on El Miradero. It's 1449 El Miradero. On May 21st, you have an informational report on the housing element, and you have a tentative tract map at 124 West Colorado. That's scheduled right now. And those are the only two items for May 21st.
Although things could pop up.
Exactly.
Like this.
Right. I lean toward the very next date, but if you gentlemen prefer to push it off to the second date, I'm okay with that, of course. Comments?
Ambivalence. I don't have a strong opinion either.
Okay. It's status quo as far as you're not billing anything else, you're not adding signage, it's the site lease fallow for the next, basically 4 weeks. I guess I don't have a problem with that.
That's
I
fine.
have a motion continue to that specific date. I'm sorry, that's May, what
Which
day is
one of
it?
the two, the 7th or 21st?
21st, I guess it would be.
21st.
So this would be continued without further notice?
Right.
And Mr. Chair, I'd move that we continue this to May 21st without further notice.
Second.
A motion support, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Jarrow,
Aye.
Commissioner Manukian.
Aye.
Commissioner Torgerson,
Aye.
Chairperson Kane.
Aye, on a vote of 4-0, the zoning administrator decision appeal for 2800 Montrose is continued to May 21st without further notice.
Okay, thank you very much.
You bet. Okay, could I go back and ask if we could have approval of the minutes for April 2nd, please? I blew right past that.
I would, based on the review of the minutes from the April 2nd meeting, move that we approve.
Second.
Motion support for approval of the minutes. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Jarrow,
Aye.
Commissioner Manukian.
Aye.
Commissioner Torgerson,
Abstain.
Chairperson Kane.
Aye, on a vote of 3-0 with one abstention, the minutes of April 2nd, 2008 were approved. All right, we're moving on to agenda item 7B, which is tentative parcel map GLN 1623. It's 3525 Altura Avenue. It was a motion to deny that we continued from April 2nd for the purpose of staff making findings. It was a request to subdivide one developed lot into 3 parcels for the purpose of constructing 3 new single-family residences on the new lots. The 2 existing detached residential units will be demolished. The project was exempt from CEQA. The applicants are Richard Barron and Lai Peng Lau, and staff was represented by Vilia Zematitis. And again, we have a motion that has been prepared by staff for commissioners to consider and comment on. Comments from staff in regards to that?
Yes, Chairman Kane, members of the commission, we included a copy of the map up on the board just to refresh your memory. This was a request for 2 flag lots on 2 additional flag lots, rather, and this would be on Altura up in the La Crescenta area. There was quite a lot of discussion at the last meeting. You directed us to prepare a motion for denial, and there's one that's included with your staff report.
Okay. Any other comments from the...
Well, just that we did list 4 reasons for the denial, and we'd ask that if you have any comments on those, to please let us know. We can certainly make modifications tonight to those if we miss something.
All right. I have one speaker. It's Richard Barron.
Thank you very much, Commission and Commissioner Kane. I'd just like to say that I do appreciate your time and efforts in looking at my application. We again have, we believe, satisfied the requirements that were given to us both by the staff and also, as I understand it, by all the laws that were available to us and ordinances that were available to us. If there is a problem outstanding, such as the issue of noise, we would like to, in fact, address that, and if that requires a continuance, I think we would like to have that. We are requesting that. And I'd like to make this very short and say thank you, and I believe liberty and justice for all, which includes us, is what I'm asking for. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Barron. Any questions from the speaker at this time? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. All right. Commissioners, comments on the draft motion from staff?
I have a couple of comments. Primarily, I think my purpose in moving to deny the application at the last meeting had less to do with the calculated area of the lots relative to similar lots in the neighborhood, but it had more to do with actually the number of lots on the property and the shape of the lots. I think looking at the map of adjoining properties, you can see that they're relatively narrow. I think they were 50 feet wide, but very deep. And this lot lended itself to such a split, a simple split down the center to make two 50-foot wide lots. And it was that kind of compatibility that I was primarily interested in, rather than trying to shoehorn the buildable area relative to the size of adjacent lots. So with that, I think I'd be more comfortable with the motion if we struck some of the language, and really the primary purpose to me would be item that is currently item D would be my primary finding, which I would seek to move to item A. But more than willing to listen to comment in that regard.
I'm sorry. So you want just so I understand, you want to add item D to item A?
I would simply change the order, because to me that was the primary
Oh,
finding.
I see. Implying that A to D is in order of importance.
Some level of priority, or yeah. And in current B, I would strike, starting with the furthermore, to that sentence all the way to less than the neighborhood average. So simply not talk about necessarily the average size of lots. And then similarly in item C, I would strike from the first line, starting with the average, so development because all the way through to the moreover, so because of the proximity of proposed developments, and striking again the square footage. I don't know if that's clear, but I have
In other words, your objection is more because of the proximity to the adjacent structures as opposed to the size of the lots.
Yeah, it was more the compatibility with the existing lots in the neighborhood, and not so much over the size of the buildable area. I think if you looked at the actual lot size, including the driveways, in fact, they were relatively similar to lots in the immediate neighborhood. But here we rely on exclusion of the driveway portion for a calculation of buildable area. I don't know that necessarily we want to, when we're looking at lot size, sometimes consider the what I would consider the flagpole portion of the flag, and sometimes include it. So I would just assume not create a precedent where we excluded it in this instance, but in other cases we would count the driveway portion as part of the lot size.
Okay. Mr. Manukian, any comments?
I think I would like to echo Commissioner Gero's statements. My personal inclination to vote against the application was based not on any specific feet and inch calculation, but rather the inclination that putting together three lots three separate lots on the existing lot, in spite of the fact that it meets, strictly speaking, the requirements of the code, was not a good idea in light of how the neighborhood as a whole in the immediate vicinity is situated. So I wasn't relying so much on calculation as I was on the general concepts that are articulated in, for instance, the current paragraph D, which, again, I agree with Commissioner Jarrow that it should be lifted up to paragraph A status, as it were.
Right. And it has to do with compatibility for me as well.
What are your
Much
feelings?
better
What are
articulated
your
than-
feelings about the proposed striking of the language?
Again, since I was not relying on any calculation or calculus, and since the language that Commissioner Jarrow proposes be struck does, I would be in agreement with him. The language that I would, again, wish to have struck, to reiterate, Commissioner Jarrow, begins with, in paragraph B, the word furthermore, and ends at the end of the paragraph. In terms of paragraph C, it begins with the word development, because, in the first sentence, and ends, where do we end?
Moreover.
With moreover.
Yeah, okay. Now, actually, in B, what I believe the suggestion of Ben was to, and not at the end of the paragraph, but at the
You're
preceding
maintaining
sentence.
okay, fine.
Retain that last sentence.
Okay, retain the last sentence.
Yeah.
Comments, Mr. Torgerson?
No, Mr. Chairman, having watched the tape of the last hearing, I'm familiar with everything, and I agree with the other two commissioners.
All right. All right. Is staff clear on the edits that are being suggested?
Here's what I have, to see if I get this right. I have number D becoming number A, reading, "The proposed map is contrary to the purpose of the City of Glendale subdivision ordinance, and that the shape, size, and proposed lots will be incompatible with the size and shape of other lots in the immediate neighborhood." I would add on to that, if I would suggest that you add on to that, that it says the proposed map is contrary to the purpose of the City of Glendale subdivision ordinance and the Subdivision Map Act.
Right. The Subdivision Map Act.
And then for number A, which would then become the new B, I have no language changes. For number B, which would become the new C, I have the proposed map would create lots that do not closely conform to the size, design, and configuration of contiguous or nearby lots in the neighborhood. The proposed flag lots would be the only ones between the flood control channel to the east and Dunsmore Avenue to the west. All lots in Altura, Prospect, and Encinal Avenues within 500 feet between these two perpendicular bisectors have frontages on the streets. And the actual build-out on these two rear lots would not be compatible with the neighborhood development and the attractiveness of the development as it relates to surrounding single-family homes.
Yes.
And then for number C, which is the one I'm having the most confusion over, what I hear, it's really the lot design that's the problem, not the lot size.
Right.
And so the way I would read this would be, the site is not physically suited for the proposed density of the development because the lot design and the proximity of the proposed developments to the existing surrounding single-family homes creates a situation which is not compatible with the intent of the setback and open space ordinances, nor is it consistent with the surrounding development pattern.
So you added the clause or the phrase, "the lot design."
Because that's what I'm hearing. It's not so much the size of the lot, it's the design, it's the fact that there's a flag lot here. It's a wide lot with a flag lot design rather than long, deep, narrow lots, which is characteristic of the neighborhood.
You're right.
Very well articulated, thank you. That's better than I did myself.
Would somebody like to build on that in terms of a motion?
If I may make just a couple suggestions. One is that I believe that these were written in a certain order to reflect the findings in the code. And it's okay to change them around in order, but we should just probably say, as regards required findings, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I see.
So just so we know what argument you're making.
I have
And-
no problem
okay.
keeping in the current order either.
Okay.
If there was
And-
a
All right, let's-
run to
And
that
secondly,
reason.
it's always best to have the maximum amount of your reasoning in these findings. So instead of just saying it's not compatible with existing development, I would just urge you to, we'll repeat what you're telling us kind of informally, that all the other lots are 50 feet wide and very deep. I mean, to say that it's not incompatible with the rest of the lots is better supported if you describe exactly how. And I just drafted some language I gave to Laura.
A says that, original A says that, original C basically says that. I understand what you're suggesting, but I'm thinking that the way it's been drafted covers this well enough. Well, Tim, what would you suggest adding specifically?
Well,
Just exactly what Commissioner Giroux said earlier.
I think we can put it in,
Did that.
what I have down is now D. The site is not physically suited for the proposed density development because of the lot design, and that the existing pattern of lot configuration is one in which lots are 50 feet wide and deep. However, this is proposing a creation of flag lots, which has narrow driveways and wider building areas to the rear of the lot. It's inconsistent with the pattern. Something like, you can wordsmith it.
No, I would accept that as an amendment to my original motion and actually make that my own amendment.
Okay. Motion seeking support?
I'll second the motion.
All right, I have a motion, I have support. Could I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Jarrow,
Aye.
Commissioner Manukian.
Aye.
Commissioner Torgerson,
Aye.
Chairperson Kane.
Aye. Or would it be no? It actually should be a no motion, shouldn't it? I'm not sure how, I'm not sure.
It's a yes on the motion to deny.
Yes on the motion
Thank you.
tonight.
All right. On a vote of 4-0, we have denied tentative parcel map number GLN 1623. I didn't want to find out a month from now that we'd voted yes when we meant no. All right. All right. Thank you very much on that. Planning Department updates?
I don't have any updates. Do you have any, Tim? No, I think everything's going along well. We have a lot of work, so you're going to see quite a few appeals coming in the next few meetings that you have. We've been trying hard, per your direction, to only limit each meeting to have one appeal on each meeting, rather than load you up where the first meeting of the month would have multiple appeals.
Well, that's fine, except when we get these continuations springing out, you know, if we have to have a couple meetings with two variances, so be it.
Right, but and I'm just letting you know that we are trying to balance the workload, so we have a similar timed meeting each time, so we don't wind up with one meeting that goes to midnight and another meeting that's 10 minutes long.
All right, then, we've stretched this to make this a 35-minute meeting, so.
Thank you.
All right. Any comments from commissioners? Do we have any?
I have one. I'm sorry. I'm going to make this a 37-minute meeting. I did want to ask the staff about getting a report on potential incentives for lead building practices in the city. I know that the City of Burbank is moving forward with a program to incentivize green building practices. The City of Los Angeles has so done. City of Pasadena, I know, did so at least a year ago, if not two. And so while we may not be the first adopter, I think we could still be an early adopter of such a program.
I like to think that we're picking up, and they've been forced to deal with all the mistakes. Like buying the second model year of a new car.
I would say that's the direction that we've already received from the City Council, and it is on our work plan. I know that people are working on it now. They're doing the research. So definitely that item will be brought to Council, and upon their direction, we'll be bringing it to you.
All right. Well, speaking for myself, but at least one of our fellow commissioners, if not for all of us, if we need to start earlier someday to crowd this into a crowded agenda so we can move it forward, just let us know, okay? Because we're eager to make that happen. Well, I'm eager to make that happen. I suspect several other people are as well.
I didn't raise it for the purpose of delay.
Yes. Well, you're filibustering our meetings.
I am.
Any other comments from commissioners?
No, sir.
All right. Unless there's objection, and I see none, we'll be adjourned.